I honestly believed we were in a good place. Not perfect, not exciting every single day, but stable, and after being together for a few years, stability felt comforting. We didn't argue much. When something felt off, we talked about it. We had routines, small predictable moments that made life feel grounded. Mornings together, familiar dinners, evenings that didn't require much effort. I thought that meant we were doing something right. We trusted each other completely, not in an exaggerated way, just naturally. We shared passwords, not as a rule or a test, but because it never felt like a big deal. Phones were always left face up on the table. Laptops stayed open. Doors were unlocked. Conversations felt easy. Trust wasn't something we talked about, it was just there. Something I believe we had built slowly over time. That's why the moment that changed everything felt so small when it happened. It was an ordinary night. We cooked dinner, watched something forgettable on TV, and went to bed earlier than usual. There was nothing unusual about it. No tension. No argument. No warning signs I could clearly point to. I remember waking up in the middle of the night without knowing why. The room was dark and quiet. That's when I noticed her phone light up on the nightstand. I wasn't trying to check it. I didn't touch it or unlock it. The glow just caught my attention in the darkness. I saw the notification preview before the screen faded again. It was from a name I didn't recognize. The message said, "I understand. Thank you for being honest. I won't push anymore." That was it. No emojis. No explanation. No follow-up message underneath it. Just that one line. I stared at the phone longer than I should have. My chest tightened in a quiet, uncomfortable way, not panic, but not calm either. My mind immediately rushed to explain it away. Maybe it was work-related. Maybe it was someone asking for relationship advice. Maybe it was an old friend who needed support. I told myself that if something was actually wrong, I would already know. So I did what I'd always done when something felt unsettling. I ignored it. The next morning, the image of that message was still stuck in my head. I went back and forth about bringing it up. I didn't want to sound suspicious or insecure. Eventually, I mentioned it casually while we were having breakfast. I said I had seen a notification pop up late at night and asked who it was from. She barely paused. She smiled and said it was someone she had recently reconnected with, an old acquaintance who had reached out to talk about something personal. She said they were going through a rough time and just needed someone to listen. She added that she'd made it clear there were boundaries. It sounded reasonable, thoughtful. Even, I remember feeling relieved. I nodded and dropped it. But after that, small things started to feel different. Nothing dramatic, just subtle shifts. She started turning her phone face down a little more often. Notifications were suddenly muted. She laughed less during conversations, and when she did, it felt shorter, like her attention was split. Sometimes when we talked, it felt like she wasn't fully present, like her thoughts were somewhere else. Every time I noticed it, I told myself I was overthinking. Weeks passed. Life continued. On the surface, nothing had changed. We still ate dinner together, still talked about plans, still shared a bed, still went through the motions of our daily life. But the energy between us felt quieter, thinner, like something had been slowly draining away without either of us acknowledging it. One evening, she told me she needed some space. Not a break, not time apart, just space. She said she felt overwhelmed and needed time to recenter. I didn't push. I didn't question it. I told her I understood. I didn't want to be the person who clung too tightly or made things harder. I wanted to be Supportive, not controlling. A few days later, she came home later than usual. That was the moment I crossed a line I had avoided for a long time. I checked her phone. I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel justified. I just felt tired of not knowing. The message thread I remembered wasn't hard to find. What surprised me most was that nothing in it was explicit. There was no flirting, no compliments, no secret plans, no clear betrayal. Instead, there were long, emotional conversations, honest ones. Messages about confusion, doubt, and questions about the future. Conversations about feelings she had never shared with me. Conversations I thought we were having together. The last message was from her. It said, "I need to figure out what I want before I hurt someone who doesn't deserve it." My chest felt hollow reading it. The next day, I confronted her. I didn't yell or accuse her of cheating. I calmly told her what I had seen and asked her to be honest with me. She didn't deny any of it. She said she hadn't crossed any physical lines. She said she had never technically lied when I asked direct questions. She said she wasn't cheating. Instead, she told me something worse. She said she had been leaning on someone else emotionally because she wasn't sure about us anymore. She said she didn't want to end things recklessly. So she was trying to understand her feelings before making a decision. She framed it as being careful, thoughtful, responsible. That explanation cracked something inside me, because while she was taking her time to decide, I was still fully invested, still planning, still trusting, still showing up every day. I didn't get time to prepare myself. I was living inside a relationship that had already started ending on her side. I asked her when she stopped being sure about us. She paused before answering. That pause said more than anything else. She admitted it had been months. That's when I realized the message I had seen that night wasn't the beginning of something, it was the middle. I had walked into a story that had already been unfolding without me. We didn't scream or fight. We talked quietly for hours. In the end, she admitted that emotionally, she was already gone. She said she didn't mean to hurt me. She said she still cared deeply. She said she hoped I would understand. And I did. I just understood too late. We separated not long after. No dramatic ending. No public fallout. Just a quiet, irreversible shift. Packing things into boxes felt surreal, like watching someone else's life unfold from the outside. The hardest part wasn't losing her. It was realizing how long I had been in a relationship by myself. Looking back, I didn't see it coming, not because there were no signs, but because I trusted reassurance more than patterns. And I learned that sometimes the absence of conflict isn't peace. Sometimes it's just distance growing silently. Sometimes understanding comes too late, not because we ignored the signs, but because we believed the reassurance.